Wellesley Income Fund in a taxable account? My man Choi writes in, Josh, I watch your videos religiously. You drop a lot of gems, great tips for sure. Thank you, kind sir or ma'am. After watching your video about why taxable accounts are important, I recently opened a taxable account with Vanguard. You mentioned never buy mutual funds, short-term gains, or corporate bonds, ordinary income, as they result in high tax liabilities. Treasury bonds, too, in taxable accounts. What other bonds would you recommend for a taxable account? Everything in municipal or treasuries? No. Do you think a mix of ETFs? He gives me a number of ETFs, which I'm not familiar with. VTEB. So let's take a look at my trusty phone here. I don't know what these ones are. Yeah, VTEB. That sounds like I literally have no clue. So let's see what that guy is. VTEB. Oops. VTEB. Can't type. Tax exempt bond index fund. Okay. VGSH. That's something got to be short. VGSH. Okay, so he's looking at bond funds. Also, do you think the Wellesley or Wellington mutual funds are especially a bad idea for a taxable account? All right. I'm asking for a friend who has a big percentage of his portfolio in the Wellesley Income Fund. It's tough to say, Choi, without knowing the whole situation, but I don't like any of that stuff, frankly. I think maybe I'll go downstairs later on and do another video on this. I think I will. I think it's important to understand how this works with the taxable, the tax deferred, and tax free. Taxable has every single time long-term capital gains are more beneficial than ordinary income. Every single time. There's not one case where long-term capital gains are less tax favorable, less tax friendly than ordinary income. Well, unless Joe Biden gets his way, he wants to tax capital gains as 39.6. Freaking people are nuts. But anyway, so because that, we know for a fact long-term capital gains will always and everywhere under the current tax code, remains to be seen who becomes president, are going to be more tax beneficial than ordinary income. So what happens when you put an IRA and when you put a stock in an IRA, is coming out as OI, ordinary income. When you have a bond outside an IRA, it's also being taxed as OI. So you got two things that are being taxed as ordinary income. When you have a stock outside an IRA and a bond that's in an IRA, the bond comes out as OI. The stock is taxed at long-term capital gains, qualified dividends, and there's something called a step-up basis as well. And I'm going to go downstairs here in just a second, right on the bulletin board. So we don't want bonds in non-IRA accounts because essentially what you're doing is you're creating an OI, ordinary income tax. Now, if you don't have stocks, but you do because you talk about, or someone does, Wellington, Wellesley, what we'd much rather have you do is separate the bonds into your IRA and the stocks into your taxable account, if that makes sense, without question. So I don't know. I don't like Wellesley in a non-IRA, not at all. I would much rather have the stocks of the Wellesley, which essentially is VTV, the Vanguard Value Fund. I'd much rather have that value ETF. I'd much rather have that in the taxable account and the bond index or something like that in the IRA for sure. Obviously you got to figure out 30-70 stock to bond, 70-30 stock to bond, but no, we don't want that. I will say this is one of those issues where I think whole life insurance actually works real well, or fixed annuities that you can add to. The drawback of fixed annuities is that at some point it will be taxed as OI, ordinary income, but it's not taxed until you decide for when to be taxed, if that makes sense. Whole life insurance is never taxed, and I mean, if you do it right, but it still grows tax-free if you take loans against it and you make sure the policy is funded. I'm not going to get into the details of it here, but if you actually have a whole life policy that you can add to and it's fully funded where it's not going to go kaput on you, and it won't, you can borrow against it tax-free there too. That you have to be careful there. There's a lot more risk to this than some of these guys talk about, but whole life insurance is great. It's not part of your provisional income. It's not part of MAGI, your modified adjusted gross income, so it doesn't affect your Social Security taxes whatsoever. Annuities don't either until you pull them out. So I'm a fan of both those guys for sure. So it's interesting. So in this case, no, I don't like Wellesley inside a non-IRA account. I don't think it makes sense at all. So I hope this helps. Obviously better to have Wellesley than not. I mean, that's not a bad place to be, but I'd rather have the Wellesley bonds inside an IRA and the stocks outside an IRA. Hope this helps. Thanks, man.